Biden a national security threat?
That's not a question that would come up before me, Congressman.
You're the head of the National Security Division, so it seems sort of on the nose.
It's not in my practice or experience to identify individuals
Not in my purview.
and to
We've
label
heard that
any
before.
individual, an American citizen, or any individual as a national security threat.
Well, you would certainly concede that if the adult offspring of the President of the United States or the Vice President were compromised, that would be a national security threat, right?
We speak through our filings in court, and we speak through our actions in open court. So I would,
Okay, well,
I would
speak to this.
remain
Where's the
in
laptop?
that position.
Do you know where Hunter Biden's laptop is?
Again, I'm not going to talk about any potential ongoing investigation as I sit here.
Do you know where it is?
I'm not going to talk about any ongoing investigation.
You come here and you tell us you follow the facts and the law, but you can't even follow a laptop that you guys have had for 3 years.
We follow the facts and the law, and we speak in open court about our
Yeah,
cases.
but you aren't speaking about this. But you know who is speaking about it? The whistleblowers.
We speak through our filings in court, and we speak through our actions in open court. So I would,
Okay, well,
I would
speak to this.
remain
Where's the laptop?
in that position.
Do you know where Hunter Biden's laptop is?
Remain
Where's the
in
laptop?
that position.
Where's the
Remain in that
laptop? Do you know where Hunter Biden's laptop is?
Again, I'm not going to talk about any potential ongoing investigation as I sit here.
Do you know where it is?
I'm not going to talk about any ongoing investigation.
You come here and you tell us you follow the facts and the law, but you can't even follow a laptop that you guys have had for 3 years.
We follow the facts and the law, and we speak in open court about our cases.
But you aren't speaking about this. But you know who is speaking about it? The whistleblowers from the FBI who've gone to Senator Grassley and said that you guys purposefully take any information that is derogatory about Hunter Biden and you go and rat hole it so that you never have to speak about it in any circumstance. But the good news is you're not the only ones with that laptop. So Patrick Ho was convicted of bribing government officials in Africa, and he gave $1 million to Hunter Biden. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not going to speak about any ongoing investigation.
Is that an ongoing?
I can assure you
that an ongoing investigation?
I'm not going to.
Patrick
I'm not
Ho
going to
bribe?
speak about any potential ongoing
Don't
investigation.
you see that that degrades the country's belief in you guys when you have whistleblowers saying that you're purposefully rat-holing this information, and then you come here and say you won't talk about it? I mean, you know, inside Hunter Biden's multi-million-dollar deals with a Chinese energy company, Washington Post, Matt Vizier, Chinese elite paid $31 million to Hunter and the Bidens, Peter Schweitzer in the New York Post. Hunter Biden's business partner called Joe Biden the big guy in panic messages. Do you guys call Joe Biden the big guy at the Department of Justice?
So I think it's important to understand why we don't speak about cases outside of the courtroom.
But by the way,
I
already know why.
Sir, if I may answer the question.
You know why you don't speak about it? Because it's about Hunter Biden. You guys have no problem leaking about other stuff, right? Like you got no problem going out and tagging parents at school board meetings as a national security threat. But when all of the facts and all of the law are before you regarding the corruption of Hunter Biden, you don't want to speak to that at all. And it's precisely why you've got folks that are talking to Senator Grassley about it. Bohai Harvest. So 10 days after Vice President Biden takes Hunter Biden to China, 10 days after, this long, toiling venture of Hunter Biden, they can't get off the ground, 10 days after they go, he automatically gets approved. So for a deal in China with Bohai Harvest, have you guys looked into that?
I'm not going to talk about any ongoing investigation.
Well, you know who else is talking? Tony Bobolinsky. Tony Bobolinsky told the world that Joe Biden was cut in on a CCP energy deal that was orchestrated by Hunter Biden. Have you guys talked to Tony Bobolinsky?
Again, we don't talk about ongoing investigations in settings such as this.
So Joe Biden, how about this? Will you commit to a classified briefing on these matters?
I'd certainly be happy to talk to you or any member of the committee about matters of national security.
Okay, well,
but
is this a matter of national security?
We do not talk outside of courtrooms about ongoing investigations.
Well, is there an ongoing investigation of the annual fund dinner that happened where Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States and Hunter Biden holds his fund's annual dinner at the Chinese embassy? But in order to do that, in order to get the Chinese embassy to roll out the red carpet for Hunter Biden and to raise money for his fund, he had to go to the embassy 30 minutes before and have a one-on-one meeting with the Chinese ambassador. Do you think it's possible that that meeting might have jeopardized national security?
I'm not going to comment about any potential or ongoing investigation.
Well, here's the thing. It's pretty easy to see that Hunter Biden is compromised. I think every American knows that's a threat to national security. I think we're watching a crime spree in progress that Hunter Biden is orchestrating. And one has to wonder, like, what are the Chinese getting for the tens of millions of dollars that they're cutting the Biden family in on? What is the Chinese Communist Party getting as a result of cutting in 10% for the big guy? And I just happen to notice that, like, you guys canceled the China initiative that President Trump put in place, where you focus talent on those things. You know, Jim Biden said to Tony Bobolinsky that the reason they're able to get away with this corruption is plausible deniability. And that is precisely the plausible deniability that you are animating and exemplifying today. And you know what? Winter's coming. We're going to be in the majority, and then you're going to have to answer these questions for the country.
Mr. Jordan of Ohio is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Olson, are you juicing the numbers?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
You talked all about your opening statement about the number of domestic terrorism threats. We've had multiple whistleblowers come to our office and tell us that they're being pressured to categorize cases as domestic terrorist threats that aren't. And I'm just wondering, because it was the opening of your statement, most of your statement, you talked about this new office you filled. Are you juicing the numbers?
So I'm not aware of the references you're making to the whistleblowers. What I can tell you is that the intelligence community has assessed that the threat we face from domestic violent extremism is elevated, and that's consistent with what I see on a daily basis.
Who is Timothy T-Bolt?
I'm sorry, I don't know that name.
You don't know that name? Mr. Grassley does. Mr. Grassley cited in his letter. Mr. Gates brought him up in his 5 minutes of questioning. Mr. T-Bolt's a guy who suppressed information that was verifiable about Hunter Biden in 2020. You don't know who this individual is?
I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
You know what's also interesting about this individual? He's the guy that the whistleblowers told us is pressuring them to recategorize the cases as domestic terrorism cases. And you don't know anything about him.
I do not.
All right, well, I guess that maybe stands to reason. I find that interesting. How many more parents has the Department of Justice investigated?
The Justice Department and the FBI investigate individuals who commit acts of violence or threats of violence.
I'm talking in relative
for
to the school board
crimes.
issue. How many more parents have you investigated? We know of 20-some, over 24, because again, we've had other whistleblowers come forward and tell us about that. I mean, the number, it's almost like it's a well-worn trail of FBI agents coming as whistleblowers to our office because so many things that they're concerned about going on at the Justice Department. So we know of over 24. I want to know how many more have you done since we sent that letter 2 months ago to the Justice Department?
So we don't investigate anyone based on their status as a parent or not a parent. We would investigate and prosecute.
You would investigate them based on the threat tag, EDU officials, the designation. How many more than the 20-some we know about already, how many more have been investigated because they have that threat tag associated with their name?
I don't believe that anyone's been investigated because they have a threat tag, and I can't speak to that.
How else are you going to identify them? That was the FBI memo, threat tag on their name, EDU officials, and they've been investigated. And again, we know of over 24 of them.
I don't have specific information about that.
All right. You were on the press release when the Attorney General issued his memorandum on October 4th, 2021. The National Security Division was mentioned on this press release that went out that day. Here's what the press release says. According to the Attorney General's memorandum, the Justice Department will launch a series of additional efforts to include the creation of a task force. Has that task force been created?
I believe that it has, yes.
You believe, or has it?
I believe that it has, yes.
Who's on it?
So a number of components across the Justice Department.
Who's on the task force?
A number of components are represented on the task force, from the criminal division to the civil division.
Well, components don't serve on task force. People do. Who are the people on the task force?
A number of representatives of those components serve on the task force.
Do you serve on it?
I am not a member of the task force. I have not been to any meetings. There are a number of representatives across the department who form that task force.
Who from the NSD is on the task force?
So I don't have any information about who particularly is on the task force from my division.
This was a big press release. This was the biggest story in the news last fall, and the National Security Division is one of the components on the task force, and you've never been to a task force meeting, and you don't know who from your division is?
Correct.
Are you guys embarrassed about this whole looking into school boards going after moms and dads? Is this an embarrassment? I mean, the National School Board Association has pulled back their letter. They said they apologized for it. They regret that they did it. A bunch of states have pulled out of the organization. I'm just wondering if that's the same attitude you guys now have. Frankly, that'd be good if you did.
I think we take very seriously that anyone who serves in civic life deserves to be safe. And anyone who serves on a school board, on a city council, in any position of public trust, They should not be the subject of threats of violence or violence. And that's the point of this effort, is to work with, particularly with
and
state and
parents
locals to
should feel
ensure
safe that they can
people
speak
serving
their
those
mind about
positions
their
are
kids'
safe.
education and not be harassed for doing so. You know, we've sent you 103 letters, 584 specific requests over the last 9 months. I have a whole stack of them here. Have you collected any of the information we've asked for? Have you collected that information?
I'm aware that there have been requests. I don't know the status of the response to those requests. I'm certainly willing to take
We
that
know
back
the
to our
status of the
Office
response.
Legislative
You've
Affairs.
basically given us the finger and said we're not going to give you anything. We got two letters with like a half a paragraph on each letter. I just want to know if you've actually collected the information. We know you're not going to give it to us because we've seen that over the last 9 months. Have you collected any of it?
I'm not sure what, sir, I'm not sure what you mean by collected any of the information. I'm certainly willing to.
584 specific requests about correspondence, emails, communication between the Justice Department, the White House, the Department of Education. We've asked for the information. I'm just asking, have you even started to collect it?
I'm certainly willing to take that question back to our Office of Legislation.
Well, I think it's interesting you don't know the answer to it, so it tells me you probably
The gentleman's time
haven't.
has expired.
I yield to my friend from Florida, Mr. Gates.
Is Hunter Biden a national security threat?
That's not a question that would come up before me, Congressman.
Paula Bontempi. Federica Bianco, David Grinspoon, Carlin Toner, Josh Sameta, and Jennifer Buss. Well, in the front row, we have Walter Scott, Warren Randolph, Reggie Brothers, Shelley Wright, Scott Kelly, Anna Maria Barea, Mike Gold, and David Spergel, who serves as chair of the team. I have a few opening remarks, but to begin, I'd like to start with the following. First, I'd like to pay tribute to the life of retired Air Force Master Sergeant Sam Sato, who's being laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery today. Following his active duty service, Sam served as the Intelligence Collection Manager for the National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, where he played a critical role in UAP analysis. All of us at NASA offer our condolences to Sam's family, friends, and colleagues. Second, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my profound gratitude to our distinguished panel of experts for their unwavering commitment and dedication. It's disheartening to note that several of them have been subjected to online abuse due to their decision to participate on this panel. And NASA's security team is actively addressing this issue. We at NASA are acutely aware of the considerable public interest in UAP. However, it's critical to understand that any form of harassment towards our panelists only serves to detract from the scientific process, which requires an environment of respect and openness. Now, every member of our team is a recognized authority in their respective field, and they have our unequivocal support. NASA stands in solidarity with them, advocating for a respectful discourse that befits their expertise and the significance of their work. Thanks. Now, in recent years, the subject of unidentified aerial phenomena, nowadays termed unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, has captured the attention of the public, the scientific community, and the government alike. And it's now our collective responsibility to investigate these occurrences with the rigorous scientific scrutiny that they deserve. NASA Administrator Senator Bill Nelson believes that understanding UAPs is vital for several reasons, which is why he directed this study. First and foremost, it provides an opportunity for us to expand our understanding of the world around us. As an organization dedicated to exploring the unknown, this work is in our DNA. Secondly, this study aims to enhance situational awareness. The presence of UAPs raises concerns about the safety of our skies, and it's this nation's obligation to determine whether these phenomena pose any potential risks to airspace safety. By understanding the nature of UAPs, we can ensure that our skies remain a safe space for all. In order to achieve these goals, it is crucial that we employ a scientific lens for our UAP work. It's precisely this rigorous, evidence-based approach that allows one to separate fact from fiction. This team is comprised of experts from various disciplines, which allows them to approach this work from multiple perspectives. And we have greatly benefited from that collective expertise. Now, why do we value a scientific approach? It's because science is built on evidence. It thrives on scrutiny. It demands reproducibility, and above all, objectivity. When we approach UAPs from a scientific perspective, we do not come in with an agenda. We come in needing a roadmap. Indeed, the primary objective of this incredible team of experts is not to go back and look at grainy footage of UAPs, but rather to give us a roadmap to guide us for future analysis. And this is the very scientific method that NASA holds true to its heart. Scientific research is intended to be publicly available and transparent, and NASA prides itself on making its data and images available to the public to learn and explore on their own. By holding public meetings like this one, we aim for open and honest dialogue with the public. We recognize that public interest in UAPs is high and that the demand for answers is strong. Conversations like this one are the first step to reducing the stigma surrounding UAP reporting. Moreover, transparency is essential for fostering trust between NASA, the public, and the scientific community. In order to do things right, we must work together, pooling our resources, our knowledge, and our expertise. And by maintaining open channels of communication, we can facilitate collaboration, encourage the exchange of ideas, and ensure that our work is as robust as possible. Not only that, but our commitment to openness is in itself a reflection of NASA's commitment to scientific integrity. As an organization dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, it is NASA's responsibility to be honest and forthright and to follow the science. And by being transparent in our work, we uphold our dedication to scientific excellence. The meeting today represents the first deliberative actions that the team has taken. And so it's important to keep in mind that they still have several months of work ahead of them. Their final report will be released this summer, and we will publish it on our website. NASA believes that the study of unidentified anomalous phenomena represents an exciting step forward in our quest to uncover the mysteries of the world around us. By embracing a scientific lens, we ensure that our work is rigorous and reliable. And by valuing transparency and openness, we can foster trust and collaboration with the public. Simply put, this is why we do what we do. Now, before I introduce Nikki, there are a few administrative matters to attend to. Firstly, the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Independent Study Team has been established in accordance with the Federal Advisory Committee Act, known as FACA. Its parent committee is the Earth Science Advisory Committees. As such, this group does not report to the government. It reports to the Earth Science Advisory Committee, who will debate the recommendations and formally transmit this team's report to the government. Next, our deliberative committee meetings, such as this one, are open to the public. And also, after this panel was convened, the National Defense Authorization Act, known as the NDAA, changed the A in UAP to be anomalous. Accordingly, this panel's remit was expanded to encompass not just aerial UAP. However, the majority of UAP sightings to date have been in the aerial domain. So it's fair to say that this panel's focus is on the aerial aspect of anomalous. Now, in compliance with the FACA federal statute, formal minutes have been taken throughout the meeting today, and these meetings and these minutes are for the public record, and hence all presentations and discussions and comments by the committee members should be considered to be on the record. Each member of this UAP study team has been appointed because of their specific subject matter expertise as individuals, and hence each member is subject to federal ethics laws. This category of appointment is called Special Government Employees, or SGEs, for our non-government members, and our 2 federal employees serve as regular government employees, known as RGEs. Now, to the panel. All members on this committee should remember to recuse themselves if a topic comes up in which you have a potential conflict of interest between your financial interests, including those of your employer, and matters that we're discussing. And then finally, panel, if you have any ethics questions, please see me separately, and if needed, I'll put you in contact with a NASA ethics attorney. Thanks for bearing with me. I'd now like to turn to the amazing Dr. Nikki Fox, Associate Administrator for NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Over to you, Nikki.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to all the members of NASA's UAP Independent Study Team. Your selfless dedication to the pursuit of knowledge is just so commendable. And I want to thank you, the audience, for tuning in today to watch our first deliberative meeting of NASA's Independent Study Team on evaluating and categorizing unidentified anomalous phenomena. Before I begin, though, I really do want to double down on Dan's words that it is really disheartening to hear of the harassment that our panelists have faced online, all because they're studying this topic. NASA stands behind our panelists, and we do not tolerate abuse. Harassment only leads to further stigmatization of the UAP field, significantly hindering the scientific progress and discouraging others to study this important subject matter. Your harassment also obstructs the public's right to knowledge. Our panelists are leading experts in the scientific, aeronautics, and data analytics communities. We are very lucky to have them on board to share their invaluable insights to inform NASA on what possible data could be collected in the future and how it can be collected to help us better understand the nature of UAP. The UAP Independent Study was commissioned to create a roadmap on how to use the tools of science to evaluate and categorize the nature of UAPs going forward. This roadmap, of course, will help the federal government obtain usable data to explain the nature of future UAPs. Transparency, openness, and scientific integrity are pinnacle to NASA's mission. They're at the forefront of this public meeting and have been throughout the team's 7 months on this study. As Dan noted, this is a working meeting, and so the public will have the incredible opportunity to witness the process of science in action. At NASA, we lead the world in exploration and are committed to rigorous scientific inquiry. The nature of science is to better understand the unknown, and to do that, our scientists need data. Right now, there is very limited number of high-quality observations and data curation of UAP. The existing data available from eyewitness reports are often muddled and cannot provide conclusive evidence that supports UAP recognition and analysis. Additionally, an object's background can complicate the data further and render it unusable due to conventional objects that can mimic or overshadow the phenomena completely, such as commercial aircraft, military equipment, the weather, and ionospheric phenomena like auroras. This lack of high-quality data make it impossible to draw scientific conclusions on the nature of UAP. Now, this team has used unclassified data from civilian government entities, commercial data, and data from other sources to inform their recommendations. And as Dan noted, they will be published in a public report that comes out this summer. I want to emphasize that there is really great benefit to studying unclassified data rather than classified data for this study. First, unidentified anomalous phenomena sightings themselves are not classified. It's often the sensor platform that is classified. And you can kind of think of it, if a fighter jet took a picture of the Statue of Liberty, then that image would be classified, not because of the subject in the picture, but because of the sensors on the plane. Second, unclassified data make it possible for our team to communicate openly to advance our understanding of UAP, not only with each other, but across the scientific community and to the public. This ensures a clear and transparent pipeline of information that can be built upon through generations to expand our understanding. This study relies on open data. Everything we use at NASA is open, and anyone can look at these records. So I invite you to visit our open data portal at data.nasa.gov to comb through our tens of thousands of data sets that are free and fully accessible to the public. Additionally, please check out data.gov/open/data for a great overview of where you can find the archives for our science and mission data sites. I am very, very much looking forward to hearing the deliberations put forth today from our distinguished panel of experts. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. Before you go, I just want to open up to questions. Let me start with a question on this on the NASA data. I think one of the important things that we'll be looking at with other data sets and events is the data is not very well calibrated. Can you say just a little bit about how NASA goes through calibrating some of its Earth science data?
Oh, yes. We very, very rigorous Earth science. I mean, all of our data sets, not just Earth science, go through extremely rigorous calibration. We don't release anything until it's really perfect. I mean, we have quick look data that is marked as quick look data. So, you know, you can use it to get preliminary findings, but wait for the really nicely cleaned up data. So a lot of rigorous protocol in putting out our data to make sure it is perfect.
Do we have any other questions from the panel?
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Over to you.
Hi, I'm David Spergel. I'm the chair of the panel. And when I look at our chart, we have a lengthy chart, but the high-level summary of it is how can NASA contribute to understanding the nature of UAPs? And our role here is not to resolve the nature of these events, but rather to give NASA guidance to provide a roadmap of how it can contribute in this area. After my opening remarks, we'll hear from Sean Kirkpatrick from the AARO, and it's the AARO that's charged with leading the whole of government UAP effort. And they've already issued some preliminary reports on some of the events. NASA's role is to use its unique capabilities and its role as a civilian agency interacting with the scientific community in an open and transparent manner. And you know, as Dr. Fox emphasized, the Defense and Intelligence Agency data on UAP are often classified primarily because of how the data is collected, not because what's in the data. If a camera on an F-35 took a picture of a bird, it's classified. If a spy satellite takes an image of a balloon, and we've had in the news some balloons recently, that data is classified. And that's because of a desire to not reveal our technical capabilities to other nations. NASA, on the other hand, operates in a mode where it's collecting data in the open. And the NASA data is available on websites and is well characterized. And because of NASA being the civilian agency studying air and space, it has a special role to play. And I see our charge primarily as helping identify for NASA ways it could play that role and contribute to understanding. We've gone through a preliminary data collection stage, and to summarize some of the things that we've learned, the current data collection efforts regarding UAPs are unsystematic and fragmented across various agencies, often using instruments uncalibrated for scientific data collection. And if I think about the data that people have out there, it's in many ways what we'd like to think of as citizen science, but again, it is uncalibrated data, poorly characterized, not well curated. And we face, looking through this data, a significant background, a background of many of these events are commercial aircraft, civilian and military drones, weather and research balloons, military equipment, ionospheric phenomenon. We need to characterize how, when the data is taken, when it sees events like this first. The current existing data and eyewitness reports alone are insufficient to provide conclusive evidence about the nature and origin of every UAP event. They're often uninformative due to lack of quality control and data curation. To understand UAP better, targeted data collection, thorough data curation, and robust analyses are needed. Such an approach will help to discern unexplained UAP sightings, but even then there's no guarantee that all sightings will be explained. Another challenge in this area is what we call stigma. There's a real stigma among people reporting events. And despite NASA's extensive efforts to reduce this stigma, the origin of the UAPs remain unclear, and we feel many events remain unreported. Commercial pilots, for example, are very reluctant to report anomalies, and one of our goals in having NASA play a role is to remove stigma and get high-quality data. In fact, if I were to summarize in one line what I feel we've learned, it's we need high-quality data. And this is not as a research scientist whose work has been primarily focused in cosmology, I would say the lesson of my career has been you want to address important questions, you need high-quality data with well-calibrated instruments. So let me now introduce the agenda. We're going to hear from a number of experts who will be presenting up to lunch. We'll then break at 12 for lunch, from 12 to 12:30. At 12:30, we'll resume, and we'll have presentations by members of the panel on some preliminary ideas for discussion. And that will be a period of time for some open discussion by the panel. We will then have a Q&A session based on questions that have been sent in advance to the website, and we've curated those questions and grouped them together, and we'll be going through a lot of those questions, and then we'll summarize. And then over the subsequent couple months, we'll work on putting together the report, and as Dan said, we're aiming to make a public report available, we hope, by the end of July. So now let me turn this over to Sean Kilpatrick.
Hang on. We'll do a couple Q&As.
Oh, we'll have some Q&As from me?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the panel.
Any questions on the panel? Thoughts? Yes. We'll get the mic.
Yeah. So one of the things I think Dr. Fox said was looking at the release of data, very important for our study, when it's high quality. And you have also commented that data are not always perfect when we're doing certain studies. I wonder if you could shed some light on the difference between the application of certain data to certain scientific challenges.
So, when you look at your camera is often designed to take an image in the daytime and might not be optimized for nighttime imaging. Or if you take something that astronomers are very familiar with, is we design our telescopes to work at night. And if the sun is not even if you would never take the Hubble telescope and point it at the sun. This would destroy its detectors. Not only that, if the telescope is pointing there and the sun is over there, even though you're not looking at the sun, reflections off of the optics will produce what we call ghosting. And that kind of ghosting produces some very strange images. And this, one of the many things we need to worry about when we see unusual things taken from a camera is even if you're pointing the camera there, was the sun over there? Those kinds of anomalies degrade the quality of the data. And that's why it's very important to work with well-characterized instruments and to be, using them in ways in which you understand what's going on. So I think if you look at, data taken from the James Webb Telescope or from the Hubble or any of these things, and these are, telescopes looking out in space, you'll see some really, at first funny phenomenon. When a telescope points at a star that's bright, it saturates the detector and puts bleeding down the detector. And you'll see phenomenon like if there's a bright star off to the side of the, not even when you're looking at, you get this effects where light bounces off of dust in your telescope and produces a sort of diffuse image that has some really strange properties. So, when you see something unusual, the first thing you have to do is understand how that data was taken. And I think this is one of the challenges one faces when you have data taken by uncalibrated instruments years ago. It's very hard to know what's taken. It's very hard to draw conclusions. I think that's one of the challenges with archival data. And I think having dedicated, well-calibrated instruments, I think, will be important here as in any other area to understand what's going on.
So, David, anomalies are so often the engine of discovery. Maybe you could say a quick word about high-risk, high-reward research in your field of cosmology and how you see that impacting the UAP study as well.
So, an area that comes to mind is fast radio bursts. And the Shaw Prize was just announced yesterday and awarded to the discovery of fast radio bursts. And these are these bursting signals that go off all over in space. And it's an interesting story because some of the bursts were real and are fascinating, and some of the bursts, there was a series of bursts observed by this observatory in Australia, and they had really strange structure, and people couldn't figure out what was going on. And then they started to notice a lot of them bunched together around lunchtime. And what had happened was the people at the observatory would heat up their lunch in the microwave. And something they would do is they would open the door of the microwave oven before the microwave stopped. This is bad for your microwave oven. It wears it out. But not only that, it produced a burst of radio signal that was picked up by these sensitive detectors. So this, I think, is an interesting lesson. Some events end up being something unusual and conventional, but some events with these FRBs turn out to be these powerful explosions which are taking place at cosmological distances. Their nature is still not fully understood. I think they're one of the really most fascinating objects we have, these bursts going out all over space. They're interesting probes because they're kind of lighting up space between here and there. And they're a subject of very active research. And if one looks at the history of these FRBs, at first they were discovered, not believed, then finally confirmed, and they were discovered by instruments that were very sensitive but not optimized for this. And now what we're doing is we're optimizing instruments and optimizing software to look for these events. And it's often these surprises that turn out to be most interesting. And, there are phenomena like sprites, which you can think of as upward going lightning, which were seen by commercial pilots and somewhat not believed, right? Because they were very strange. And it was really only when we were able to take very high-speed imaging data, data taken often from places like space station, that we were able to see that and learn about these fascinating ionospheric phenomena. So it's surprises are really interesting. I mean, I think this is one of the fascinating things about the UAP phenomenon. If it's something that's anomalous, that makes it interesting and worthy of study. Other questions? Great. So now let me turn over to Sean.
Thank you, David. Dan, it's a pleasure to be back. Good morning, everyone. I want to start by thanking NASA for convening today's UAP Independent Study public meeting and inviting me to continue to participate. NASA has been an invaluable partner to our team at Aero as we work to better understand and respond to unidentified anomalous phenomena. We applaud NASA for commissioning its independent study team and for exploring what data and tools could be leveraged to shed greater light on UAP. Though NASA and Aero are taking on very different aspects of the UAP problem set, our efforts are very much complementary. We both are committed to the scientific method, to a data-driven approach, and the highest standards of scientific research integrity. While NASA is evaluating unclassified data sources for its study, Aero's data set includes classified material with a focus on national security areas. However, all of this data collectively is critical to understanding the nature and origin of UAP. NASA brings unique capabilities, world-class scientists, and a wealth of academic and research linkages. NASA also has access to Earth sensing satellites, radiological sensors, tools for gravitational wave, geomagnetic wave detection, and means for analyzing open source and crowdsourced data that may assist both Aero and NASA in their UAP efforts. We are very grateful for the partnership and welcome the opportunity to join with NASA to share our collective findings with the public as the U.S. government moves towards greater transparency on this issue. Last month, I testified before members of the Senate Armed Services Committee on emerging threats and capabilities and shared some of the progress made since Aero's establishment in July 2022. I discussed Aero's scientific and analytic approaches, its efforts to improve UAP data collection, standardize our reporting processes, leverage our partnerships, and meticulously review the U.S. government's UAP-related historical records. As I told the subcommittee then, the resolution of all UAP cases cannot be accomplished by DoD and the intelligence community alone. Aero's ultimate success will require partnerships with the interagency, industry, academia, the scientific community, and the public, which all bring their own resources, ideas, and expertise to the UAP challenge. We believe robust collaboration and peer review across a broad range of partners will promote greater objectivity and transparency in the study of UAP. Of course, NASA's UAP independent study team was convened very much in that spirit. I also emphasized to Congress that only a very small percentage of UAP reports display signatures that could reasonably be described as anomalous. The majority of unidentified objects reported to Aero and in our holdings demonstrate mundane characteristics of readily explainable sources. While a large number of cases in Arrow's holdings remain technically unresolved, this is primarily due to a lack of data associated with those cases. Very much along the lines of what David was just speaking about. Without sufficient data, we are unable to reach defendable conclusions that meet the high scientific standards we set for resolution. Meanwhile, for the few objects that do demonstrate potentially anomalous characteristics, Arrow is approaching these cases with the highest level of objectivity and analytic rigor. This includes physical testing and employing modeling and simulation to validate our analyses and the underlying theories, and then peer reviewing those results before reaching any conclusions.
What's cracking, Brainiacs? Matrix lovers from all over this great planet. That's right, gals and goons, man. It's Monday, Manic Monday. It's June 21st. Got Miss Charlene Angel Astor in the house who's going to cover some news. And boy, all I can say is, damn, she's got some stuff. She's definitely got some stuff to go over with me.